Good morning, everybody! Good morning, it's JPR, and welcome back to the What Happened To series. If you've been keeping track, I currently have a 100% series resurrection rate, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, you're welcome. Though, if there's one thing I think a lot of Pokemon anime fans don't want resurrected, that would be Pokemon Best Wishes, the anime series that accompanied the 5th generation games, Pokemon Black and White. For those who don't know, Best Wishes is the Japanese title for Pokemon the series Black and White in the English dub, and it's just widely referred to now as Best Wishes by the majority of the Pokemon anime fanbase, just in case you were wondering. Anyway, it was as clear as episode 1 that Best Wishes had a lot to prove to the longtime Pokemon audience. A lot of changes happened between this and Diamond and Pearl, and to say it was immediately divisive would be an understatement. If there's 3 things you don't talk about at the Thanksgiving dinner table, it's religion, politics, and the state of the Pokemon anime. First off, this series would mildly reboot Ash Ketchum's character to make him act more in line with the classic Indigo League Ash, leaving behind much of that maturity and patience that Ash had developed throughout Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh. Secondly, Team Rocket would also become drastically more serious in this arc, donning new black uniforms and losing most of their goofy antics overnight. Next, for the first time in 11 years, Brock would not be a part of the main cast, as he decided to pursue a new career goal as a Pokemon doctor at the end of the Diamond and Pearl series. And finally, the icing on the cake, Best Wishes immediately reconfirms that Ash Ketchum is still 10 years old and does not age. Yeah, it was kind of implied the entire time, but this is where most people really started going nuts about it. Anyway, those were some really bold changes to make for a series like Pokemon, which had remained relatively the same for almost a decade at this point. But personally, I wasn't opposed to most of it. I thought Best Wishes actually did a great job of making things feel fresh again, even if it meant my boy Brock had to bite the dust. A soul for a soul. But hey, you know what? I'm gonna say it. I actually really enjoyed the first arc of Best Wishes. In fact, I might be the only person in the history of my local Target to buy this garbage. I liked the fresh new art style, I liked the abundance of new music, I liked the faster pace the story was going for, with Ash obtaining 2 badges, catching 7 Pokemon, evolving his P-Dove, and having a 5-on-5 rival battle, all in the first 22 episodes. That is a blistering pace compared to Diamond and Pearl, which was slow and padded with filler, so needless to say, I was quite happy that Best Wishes came out stuffing my pie hole with content. And I really liked the first villain arc the series was building up to at the time, but to know what happened to Best Wishes, we first have to know what happened with Team Rocket. Well, that controversial decision to reintroduce Team Rocket as a serious threat stemmed from the series finale of Diamond and Pearl, where it was revealed that Giovanni was promoting Jesse, James, and Meowth for aiding in the defeat of Team Galactic. Well, more like they took credit for defeating Team Galactic. His plan was to send the trio to Unova as undercover agents to lure Team Plasma out of the shadows, and also to help draw the hidden power of a mysterious object known as the Medianite. So while the main story chugs along with Ash meeting new friends and catching Pokemon, Team Rocket operated in the background working on their own assignments. High-ranking Team Rocket members such as Pierce and Dr. Zager were also introduced to assist the trio in their missions. Eventually, Team Rocket would obtain a small fragment of the Medianite from the Nacrene City Museum, which would be used to search for the real thing, later revealed to be residing in the Relic Castle. So what is the Medianite and why is it important? Apparently it was a source of tremendous energy that when activated by ancient Unovan people would glow brightly as a replacement sun when volcanic eruptions covered the sky, serving a very similar role as Volcarona in the Black and White games. However, if overloaded, the Medianite could also cause imbalances in the energy flow of the planet and create destructive weather patterns. And this power ultimately is what would lead to the long-awaited clash between Team Rocket and Team Plasma, with even Giovanni himself traveling to Unova for the fight. And to me, that was the particularly exciting part. Giovanni in the anime was normally just a mysterious figure who operated Team Rocket from the shadows. In fact, the only time he ever appeared in person to meet Ash was in the special Mewtwo Returns. However, his memory was wiped by Mewtwo soon afterward, meaning that nothing really substantial came from that encounter. In Best Wishes, Giovanni was redesigned as a more sinister and powerful foe who was more willing to pursue his goal of world domination, and this arc was set to be his first steps towards that goal. On the other hand, Team Plasma was aiming to use the power of the Medianite to control Pokemon and liberate them from their trainers, setting up for the conflict. And finally, along came March 10th, 2011, in episode 22 of Best Wishes, a Venipede Stampede, the episode that would lead directly into the 2-part Team Rocket vs. Team Plasma arc. After a group of Venipede caused havoc in Castelia City, Professor Juniper flew to the desert resort looking for answers, with Ash and his friends planning to meet up with her there in the next episode. But then, tragedy struck. The very next day, March 11th, 2011, would be the day that the infamous Japan tsunami and earthquake occurred. It was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in Japan and resulted in millions of dollars of damages and nearly 16,000 casualties. This wasn't the first time that Japan's history of earthquakes would affect the Pokemon anime. In November of 2004, another earthquake would result in a filler episode involving Whiscash creating earthquakes being completely skipped, and also the moves Magnitude, Earthquake, and Fissure would quietly disappear from the Pokemon anime forever. Similarly, the two-parter Team Rocket vs Team Plasma arc would be skipped, presumably due to the amount of damage the Meteorite would cause Castelia City being deemed sensitive material the week after the major disaster. As a result, the English dub of episode 22 would have an altered ending that never alluded to Ash traveling to the desert resort, and in all languages, the next episode would be Ash's gym battle against Berg instead. Giovanni would then appear to inform Team Rocket that their missions were over and that they were free to return to their white uniforms and do as they please in the Unova region. Team Plasma would also disappear for the next 2 years, not making an appearance until Best Wishes episode 112. Looker, who was also set to return in the two-parter arc, would also not reappear until episode 112. Finally, the Sunglasses Croc Rock that was supposed to be caught by Ash in episode 23 would have its capture postponed until a year later in episode 65. It's safe to say this one event rewrote a large portion of the Best Wishes series. What followed the cancellation of this arc was a wall of nearly 30 filler episodes, something that at this point was very unusual for Best Wishes. If you recall, I mentioned earlier how the series was originally setting a blistering pace, one that the anime hadn't seen since its first season. Perhaps the series slowing its pace was inevitable, but at the same time, I can't help but feel that the series had to tap the brakes to regroup themselves since the main focus of the story was so suddenly scrapped. Team Rocket did eventually get a few arcs later in the series involving the Battle Subway, the Kami Trio, and attempting to capture a time-traveling Tortuga, but most of these arcs had little influence on the overall series. As a result, Best Wishes wasn't left with much going for it, no big events to hype up the audience. It became a series that was padded out by multiple filler arcs and multiple tournament arcs, which weren't bad by any means, but they still left a lot to be desired as far as the overall story goes. It wasn't until 2013, the final year of the Best Wishes series, when we would finally get episode N, an arc of 14 episodes focusing on N and the rest of Team Plasma, this time being based on the events of the Black and White 2 games, rather than the originals. And ultimately, this arc just ended up being absolutely meh. While N was a decent temporary addition to the main cast, many fans felt that the anime totally missed the mark with characters such as Colress and Getsus, who had little time to be fleshed out in any capacity. Team Plasma's ambitious goals from the scrapped Meteorite arc in the Gen 5 games were reduced to a simple Pokemon mind control scheme which had already been seen a number of times previously in the anime. The Shadow Triad is noticeably absent from this entire arc, and the rest of Team Plasma's 7 Sages only briefly appear in one flashback. And finally, the last 20 episodes of Best Wishes were entirely devoted to a horribly boring filler arc known as Adventures in the Decalore Islands. Think of it like the Orange Islands arc from Season 2, but, bad. It's a very sad comparison to make between the first 20 episodes of Best Wishes and the last 20. A series that started with some very bold, albeit controversial ideas ended in one of the most stale, forgettable ways possible. I personally believe that if that tragic day in Japan had never happened, we may be looking back on Best Wishes in a much different light. But sadly, losing that Team Plasma plot early on derailed any direction the series was heading. In conclusion, Best Wishes was a series with large ambitions that due to unfortunate events just couldn't keep itself going strong for long. And although we will sadly never get to experience the original Team Rocket vs Team Plasma plot, we did still get some things out of its cancellation. Giovanni would eventually travel to Unova to attempt to capture the forces of nature and have his first official battle against Ash Ketchum later in the series. In the transition from the XY series to the Sun and Moon series, the writers would once again mess with the idea of a promoted Team Rocket trio, which led to one of my favorite iterations of Team Rocket and Alola. And now, 10 years later, it seems the Pokemon 2019 anime series will finally be taking us to the Relic Castle very soon for a max raid battle. Although I think it's incredibly unlikely that the Meteorite would be brought up again after all this time, I admit I am intrigued to see how the return to Unova is handled. And that's gonna do it for this episode of What Happened To. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this one. I'll see you guys next time.